Story 1.
Am I the asshole for refusing to host Thanksgiving because my family keeps using my house as a free hotel? Thanksgiving is just around the corner and I feel like I'm at my breaking point. For the past 5 years, I've hosted at my house and it's gone from being something I genuinely loved to something I absolutely dread. The main issue isn't the cooking or cleaning, it's how my family treats my home like a free hotel. They don't just come for the meal, they show up days early and act like they're on vacation. My brother brings his kids, who immediately take over the living room with toys, snacks, and whatever mess they can make. My sister doesn't lift a finger, claiming she's just here to relax. And my mom spends the entire time critiquing everything I do. She even made me iron the tablecloth last year, saying it was embarrassing for the family to eat on wrinkles. Last year was the final straw. My brother's kids raided the fridge the morning after Thanksgiving, finishing off the leftover pie I was saving to share with my in-laws that weekend. No one helped clean up after dinner. My husband and I spent 2 hours washing dishes while everyone else lounged in the living room drinking wine. When I complained later, my sister rolled her eyes and said, "Well, you're the one who wanted to host." This year, I decided I wasn't going to do it. Back in September, I told everyone I needed a break and suggested we rotate hosting duties or go out to a restaurant. My mom said I was being selfish and that my house is the most comfortable. My sister flat out refused, saying her apartment is too small. And my brother said he's too busy to host because of his work schedule. Since then, they've been constantly pressuring me to change my mind. My mom even said, "You're ruining Thanksgiving for everyone," and my brother promised to help more this year, though I've heard that before. Now, with only a day to go, no one has stepped up to host, and the family group chat is a passive-aggressive mess. My mom keeps implying that Thanksgiving might not happen at all if I don't agree to host, which makes me feel terrible. On one hand, I feel like it's unfair for them to expect me to carry the burden year after year, especially when they treat me and my home with so little respect. On the other hand, the idea of Thanksgiving falling apart because of me is making me second-guess myself. Part of me wonders if I should just suck it up and host to keep the peace, but another part of me feels like I deserve a break too. AITA for standing my ground and refusing to host this year?
I think she is not an asshole. What do you guys think? Comment below. Story 2.
Am I the asshole for telling my sister that her husband doesn't love her? I know the title doesn't sound too great, but I really just needed unbiased assurance on this. To start, I, 26 female, have been pregnant with my first child for 8 months now. I have grown to be quite large, and it's extremely hard to now do everyday tasks. This would include tying shoes or running errands without feeling tired. I also have anemia, and because of this, I get tired more easily and take prenatal vitamins containing iron to help. My fiancé, 27 male, has been a huge help during my pregnancy. He is very excited, as well as my whole family, since I'm the first of my grandma's grandchildren to have kids. The only person who has been less than elated, to say the least, has been my sister, 24. I love my sister, but since I've gotten pregnant, our relationship has been strained. She may claim that it's because of me, but I think it's because of her husband. My sister and her husband have been together for 2 years, and I can see that he's a very controlling man. He doesn't allow her to see her family unless he can be present, and her current job is at the company he owns. She says this is because he doesn't want her to say untrue things about him to us, and would like to keep an eye on her while she's at work. In my opinion, I think she's a grown woman who can do whatever she wants, and I believe that he's holding something over her that's making her stay with him, as well as act estranged to her family. Whenever I call and ask how her and her husband are doing, she replies with snarky remarks regarding my pregnancy or my fiancé. One day, I was on the phone with her and I asked her if she could make it to my baby shower being held in a week. Her response was, "I would rather watch paint dry than watch you open baby gifts for over an hour." I told her that her husband could come, but she had already made up her mind. My sister actually used to want children before she graduated college, but since marrying her husband, she claims that children are a waste of time and money and people who invest in them are idiots. This hurt a little, because she also said that she didn't want to see my child either, which sounded nothing like how she was before. When I told her I was pregnant, all she could say was, "Why would you do that to yourself?" Last week was the final straw. My mother invited me to stay in our hometown for the final month of my pregnancy because I wanted to give birth in the hospital I was born in. When I got to my mother's home, I noticed that my sister and her husband were there too. I wasn't happy or angry because my mother invited them to hopefully fix our relationship, which I agreed to. The first night went fine, but the next day was a complete mess. Anytime I felt tired or any other effect from my pregnancy, my sister and her husband would scoff or whisper to each other and laugh. I felt like nothing I did was justifiable in their eyes. One night, I woke up quite late with horrible nausea. I threw up violently for about 3 hours, and my mother and fiancé took me to the clinic to make sure I had enough fluids to get me through the rest of the night. When we got back home, my sister and her husband were in the living room seemingly waiting for us. My mother shut the door, and that's when things hit the fan. My sister blew up on me and told me that I interrupted her sleep for something as minuscule as nausea when I didn't even go into labor. She said that all of my, quote, problems aren't that bad, and that I needed to stop being dramatic over something that I chose to do. This sent me over the edge. I told her, "You need to stop bitching at me when I'm literally just being a pregnant lady. I haven't even been moody with you, but you certainly have. It seems like you're just bitter because your husband, who doesn't even love you, wants no children, and you're taking it out on me." After this, I went to pack my bags, and me and my fiancé left to get a hotel in the city to stay for the rest of my pregnancy. Before I left, I could hear my sister crying, but I was too furious to say anything. I've since gotten calls from my mother and father saying how I was wrong to say those things, but my fiancé thinks I was right. So, Ada?
I think she is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below. Story 3. Am I the asshole for considering divorce over my wife's ex-behavior? I've been with my wife for 6 years, married for 1.5 years. Her son, let's call him Jake, is 9. He used to call me Dad, and we had a great bond. 5 months ago, his biological dad showed up. Since then, Jake has been repeating things his dad says and constantly insulting me. I went from "he is my dad" to "he is just my mom's husband, ha ha ha." I talked to my wife about it, but she thinks he's just a kid and that I should let it go. Last week, Jake called me because his dad, who was supposed to pick him up from school and then take him shopping for his mom's birthday, bailed on him. I stepped in, took Jake shopping, and we had a good half day together. I paid for the gift he picked out. I dropped him off at his dad. He was sleeping and forgot about even picking Jake up from school. On my wife's birthday, Jake lied and said it was his dad who took him shopping and paid for the gift, despite his dad never having a job or paying child support. His dad graciously accepted all the compliments and even made fun of the gift I gave my wife. My wife, however, didn't say a word to him. After the party, when Jake went to his dad's, I told my wife I was upset that she didn't stand up for me. She rolled her eyes and said, "Why? Because he was more thoughtful than you?" I told her the truth about what happened, but she didn't believe me. I even showed her my credit card statement and phone logs proving that Jake called me on Tuesday. Frustrated, I left to stay with my brother because I can't be around someone who doesn't trust me. Here's the thing, my brother thinks I'm right. My mother-in-law has messaged me a million times, saying it's a misunderstanding and that I'm overreacting. My wife hasn't apologized. She came over yesterday and said she feels stuck because she doesn't want to make her son feel bad about his dad. She keeps saying, "He's just a kid and you should be the bigger person." When I asked if she was apologizing, she said no. She insisted it was just a misunderstanding and added that she's seen how much her ex has been trying. Then she said I was acting like a needy man baby. I told her that if she thinks so highly of her ex and doesn't see my efforts, she should leave because she clearly doesn't get my point. She doesn't seem to care about any of the effort I put in. Her response? "That's exactly what I'm saying. You're acting like a needy baby who needs a reward. You need to man up if you love me." So now I'm torn. Should I start talking to a lawyer because there's no point in working on this? Or am I overreacting and should we try counseling?
I think he is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below. Story 4. Am I the asshole for wanting to break up with my BF when he loves me, but he has anger issues? I'm 27F committed to 27M. We are in a relationship since 4 years and it's all dreamy and happy for a while till he gets angry over small matters and feel like hitting me. He actually slapped me too, 3 times out of frustration, but then apologized badly and said he won't repeat it. Recently we were discussing something and I gave some pause as I'm a silent kind of person and it takes time for me to think and analyze the situation to give any decisions. Within few seconds, he got angry and started shouting at me. I froze. He didn't hit me, but he threw pillow at me and then he threw my bottle filled with water on floor. The cap broke. Still, he tried holding my neck while shouting. The situation got settled within few minutes when I started resisting and spoke back on what he was trying to do. He felt bad and apologized again. We didn't talk the entire day. Next day, everything seemed normal. But I'm hurt mentally so badly. We have had so many good days and we actually plan our future, trips, finances together. But only this side of him bothers me. He's not going to therapist as he's not financially so good and refuses to take my help. What should I do?
I think she is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below.
Story 5. Am I the asshole for telling my dad that I could never love him again? I, 17F, was a product of one night stand that happened before my mom and dad got married. My mom had slept with her high school sweetheart when she saw him during her bachelorette party. It was naturally assumed that I was my dad's kid, since there was no reason to really suspect I wasn't. That is, until I was around 10 and my biological dad came back into town. He had gotten a job where my dad worked, and my mom was acting so cagey that even I, a usually oblivious kid, had noticed that she was being weird. I guess that, combined with the fact my biological dad and I look quite similar, made my dad get a DNA test, and it revealed that I wasn't his biological child. Hell broke loose after that, with my dad interrogating my mom, who was stubbornly not saying a word, until my dad threatened divorce, and then my mom caved and told the truth. My dad divorced her anyways, and had my mom take full custody of me. He also told me that I wasn't his responsibility since I wasn't actually his kid, and to ask my real dad to take care of me, along with other shit that I'm not going to type out because it makes me want to put my fist into a wall. My biological dad wanted nothing to do with me, and moved away months after the divorce finalized. My dad had visitation, but obviously never used it, and moved on with his current wife. My mom blamed me for my dad divorcing her, so she pretty much just handed me over to my aunt, who told her to stop using me as an emotional punching bag once she noticed that I was being mistreated. We have had very little contact since then, and I think of my aunt as my mom more than her. Now, here's where I might be an asshole. My dad recently reached out to me saying that he's been going to therapy and realized that he shouldn't have taken out his anger about my mom cheating on him out on me, and that he really wanted to reconnect with me. I decided to meet up with him to politely tell him while I do appreciate that he acknowledges how he treated me was wrong, I have zero interest in him getting involved with my life and vice versa. He insisted we meet at his and his wife's house despite me wanting to meet in public. His wife wasn't there at least, but it was still super awkward. I tried to break it to him gently that I wasn't interested in being in his life again, but my dad refused to accept it. He was saying that we should be a family again, we could leave everything in the past, and that his wife really wanted to have me around. He eventually said that he loved me so much and that I shouldn't keep holding what I did against him since he learned that he was wrong to do so. I kind of just snapped since he kept steamrolling me and there was no actual apology for what he did. So I told him point blank that I could never love him again after what he did. That shocked him into silence, and I took that as my chance to leave and drove back home, where I told my aunt what happened. She was sympathetic for the most part, but suggested that I should apologize for telling my dad that I could never love him to clear the air, and then part ways. It's been a couple days since this happened, and I haven't heard from my dad since then except for him texting me that his wife really wants to meet me without mentioning what I said. I didn't feel anything in the moment, but now I'm starting to feel guilty about what I did. AITA?
I think she is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below. Subscribe for more interesting stories.